Good morning. Thanks for joining us. When Congress goes on recess, that's our chance to sit down and catch up with members of our state's congressional delegation. And that's what we're doing this morning with our guests. We're delighted to have, as always, the senior senator from Massachusetts, Senator Elizabeth Warren. Senator, good to see you.
Good to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You are approaching, believe it or not, the halfway point of your term.
I know.
What is so far the best and worst thing about the job?
So the best thing about the job is you actually get to make change. And I'm going to say that in three ways. Sometimes you just get to change the conversation. You get to move things in the right direction. Student loans, talking about why it is so important to refinance outstanding student loans. Social Security, well, we shouldn't be talking about cutting Social Security. We should be talking about stabilizing it and expanding it. So sometimes it's about changing the conversation. Sometimes it's about bills that are moving through the Senate and being able to help shape them in directions you think are important. We've just done one on education, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. I got some pieces in there that are going to have a little more accountability, a little better data about how federal money is used and what the outcomes are if we're really getting something for it. And sometimes it's the grinding into the small pieces. They may not show up in the headlines, but it's staying after the bank regulators to hold the big financial institutions accountable, staying after the Department of Education to deal with these student loans coming out of a place like Corinthian, where they're found to have cheated a lot of students, and now those kids have non-dischargeable student loans. So it's all three places, and that's the good news. The bad news, you don't get to do as much of it as you'd like to.
What do you mean?
Well, you know,
because you're bogged down in junk?
Look, part of the frustration is, you tell me, who really wants to defend the United States government making a profit off the backs of our kids who are trying to get an education? And yet, that's exactly what the United States government is doing, and the Republicans have blocked two separate bills that we've tried to move forward to reduce the interest rate on student loans. That just seems wrong to me.
So, are you committed to seeking a second term?
Yeah, too early to talk about that. But
what do you mean? You're halfway through.
Hey, but what I will say is I'm committed to getting up every single day and fighting for the families who sent me.
So you're not sure about a second term?
What I'm doing is I'm fighting for the families who are there in Massachusetts, the families who sent me.
So you don't want to answer that question?
I don't want to answer that.
Okay, there we go. Now, I want to shift gears here. You
Sure.
came out on August 2nd and supported the nuclear deal with Iran.
Yep.
You said that while you, quote, do not trust the Iranian regime, it is, quoting again, far easier to counter the ambitions of an Iran that has no nuclear weapon, end quote. Now we learn from the Associated Press that a previously undisclosed side deal, I'm quoting from their story, between Iran and the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency would allow Tehran to use its own inspectors to investigate a site it's been accused of using to develop nuclear arms. How can you support a deal that allows that kind of loophole for a regime you call untrustworthy?
Okay, look, I'm not the only one who calls it untrustworthy. We all understand it's untrustworthy, and we all understand the goal here, and that is that Iran not get nuclear weapons. A nuclear Iran poses a threat to the United States, to Israel, to the Middle East, to the world at large. The question is how we can best prevent Iran from developing those nuclear weapons. Now, I've been briefed on the side agreement that you talk about here. This is part of the arrangement that we were aware of, our allies were aware of, in how best to conduct the inspections all the way through.
By letting them do it?
Well, I think if you heard the full description of how the inspections go, there is a reason that the United States and our allies feel confident that the inspection of their current nuclear facilities is watertight. And
can you share that reason? Because I don't get it.
Well, it's not that they have an unmonitored ability to say, we're the ones who are going to describe whether or not we're abiding by the rules. There is a question of who physically walks, but not who has the cameras, who directs it, who watches every step of the way, and who monitors, not only in terms of watching it, but in terms of all of the other parts of the nuclear process. You know, I spent a lot of time on this question with Ernie Moniz, who's the Secretary of Energy and one of the world's leading nuclear physicists. And the question I put directly to Secretary Moniz was a question about how much confidence you have in the ability of the nations of the world to track whether or not Iran is developing nuclear weapons along this nuclear chain that you're talking about here.
Right.
And he tells me he has confidence that we can track it. You know, top-notch nuclear physicist, I'm going with that.
All right, we'll have to take a break, but when we continue, we'll talk more about a little bit of presidential politics with our guest, Senator Elizabeth Warren, so please stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking with Senator Elizabeth Warren. And Senator, you've spent much of your career, even before you got into politics, dealing with the inequities of our bankruptcy laws. Isn't Donald Trump the poster boy for those?
Boy, no kidding. I mean, one of the things that really amazes me about this process in bankruptcy is basically the opportunity for somebody to say, that's it, I've done it. I've done all I can. Yes, my creditors lent me money, they invested in me, but this is it. I can't do any more. I'm willing to give back all I can, that's it. There's a big debate about how people should feel about that. And you know, I'll tell you, most families, when they have to declare bankruptcy, they feel really lousy about it. They feel really, it's a terrible moment for them. And they describe it with a great deal of pain and a great deal of shame, not wanting people to know that they've been through bankruptcy. In fact, it was often a serious problem. We were in the middle of these bankruptcy debates trying to get a family that would be willing to talk to somebody in the press because they didn't want their neighbors, their extended family to know that they'd filed for bankruptcy. And then you see how many business executives treat it. Hey, it's just business. I take care of my business and everybody else can take care of their business. And if bankruptcy is helpful to a corporation like Donald Trump's, he's going to seize it and take advantage of it in every way he can. One is celebrated in the business world and the other is condemned. And I think that is one of the fundamental mismatches, that the same kind of moral constraints are not there for families and for big corporations.
Well, he's not the only presidential candidate who has come under fire for some of the issues you're raising here. Certainly Hillary Clinton. You've been a critic of her in the past over some of these issues involving inequities between the private sector and the regular citizen. Secretary Clinton is, in the latest polling, consistently seen as untrustworthy and uncaring by large numbers of voters. Was it a mistake for your party to anoint her as the nominee so early on?
I don't think anybody's been anointed. I think that what's going on right now is that presidential candidates on both sides, Republican and Democrat, are laying out their agendas, and this is going to give voters a chance to look at them and decide who the nominees will be.
You don't have qualms about her, this email business, her unimpressive campaign so far?
You know, what I want to see is I want to see all of the presidential candidates lay out where they stand on key issues. I think that's what Republicans should be doing, and I think that's what Democrats should be doing.
You know, from the support you have here in Massachusetts and nationally, to the strong showing of outsider candidates like Bernie Sanders or even Trump, it seems there are plenty of voters fed up with the status quo and craving some kind of authenticity and principle. When you see the crowd Sanders is drawing and his rise in the polls, I mean, do you wonder if you missed your moment?
No.
Not at all?
No.
What do you make of it?
You know, I think it's exactly what you said, and that is that people want to hear about the issues. They want to hear about change. They want to hear about how it is that we're going to take a system that's rigged and unrig it. So it doesn't just work for those who can hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers. It doesn't just work for billionaires and giant corporations, but it works for regular families. It works for America's middle class. It works for America's working families. This government has been seized by those with money and power, and it's time for change. And whether Washington knows that or not, I guarantee the American people know that, and I think that's what we're seeing.
You see Sanders and Trump tapping into that?
I see them every time they talk about issues as tapping into people want to hear who you're going to run this government for. And I think that's the big question that's on the table.
We just have a minute left here,
Sure.
but I want to ask you, this past week, a couple of interesting stories. Maybe it's good that they didn't get as much attention as they might have in an earlier era. our first 2 female Army Rangers were graduated, and apparently there's now going to be a Viagra-type pill for women, the little pink pill they're calling it. So in different ways, we're seeing the lingering inequities in the way government and business treat women kind of fade away. Are you, as our first female senator, heartened by that or disheartened by what remains to be done?
You know, look, was I delighted to see 2 women make it through the Army Ranger training? God bless them, you know? But we still got a lot of economic inequity out there. Women are still earning 76 cents on the dollar for what men earn. We can't get an equal pay for equal work bill passed through Congress. Are you kidding me? The implications of not raising the minimum wage fall much harder on women and women with children. Student loans. When women have to take on more student loans and then can't get paid as much in jobs to be able to pay off those student loans. You just watch it echo all the way through the economy. We have not yet reached a world where men and women are treated the same. And what that really means is we got a lot of work to do. We don't just sit back and say, hey, 2 women made it for Army Rangers and now there's a female Viagra pill. Enough said, game, set, match, we're done. No, we're not done. There's still a lot of change we need to make, and here's the hard part. It isn't easy to make those changes. That's the part that really gets to me. We've known about pay inequity for how long now, and yet, women today can get fired just for asking how much the guy down the hall is making for doing the same job. That's true in about half of the jobs in America today. We try to get that outlawed in Congress, and the Republicans block us on it. So I got to tell you, there's still a war going on out there, and it's down in the trenches, and it is a tough fight. But that's what we're here for, to fight back.
Senator, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Good to
Appreciate it. Talk to you soon, I hope.
All right.
That's it for us. Now, back to my colleagues for more WBZ News.